So something is only going to derail the progress that you've made if you let it. There's something coming through about like, I don't know, like a overflow of suppressed emotional energy. Because I was kind of like getting this visual of there being a leak, you know, and someone like putting, I don't know, like a trash can under the leak to catch it or whatever, and they're like, oh, I have plenty of time to come back and like dump this out or whatever. But something about like, I don't know, it's like you're underestimating how fast the emotions are building up, and this could even be subconsciously. So even if you like see this and you're like, no, I'm fine, I'm calm, I'm in a good mood, it's something about like, yes, you may be handling the suppression of certain emotions well, and you may not even be like thinking of it in that way, obviously. Um, I think that you are just considering it like you handling stuff or being brave, or even like putting on a brave face for the sake of somebody around you. So it could be like you don't want to, like, you could be at a new job or like in a new relationship and you don't want to like um give a bad impression in some way, and so you are holding back some like concern, or I don't know. It's just like you may be like pretending that everything is fine when really in all actuality you have something to express. And I'm just getting that like that emotion is going to come out one way or another. uh Obviously, if you catch it before it does reach a breaking point, that would be preferable, but I'm also getting that like if it does reach a point where you crash out, so to speak, and um I don't know, this may not apply to like the job part, because obviously if you like freak out at your job, that's a bit more like you're supposed to be professional there or whatever. It's, but if it could just be like approaching burnout, and you may have been putting off asking for some days off, because you wanted to make a good impression. It's sort of like if you don't just like suck it up and ask for those days off, it may get to the point where you get physically ill, or you literally like burn out and your performance takes a dive or something like that. And then if it's like a connection, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it's just something that you were like holding back. Like there is a more peaceful and level-headed way that you can approach these sort of like these emotions that you're trying to repress or whatever, or hide even. um but if you wait until it gets too far, you will not be able to approach it in like a balanced and rational way, and you may not phrase things the best, and it may cause a bit more of a conflict than you intended. Like it may hurt the other person more than it would have if it had been approached earlier or something like that. Like even if you have a spiritual connection with somebody, you may be under the impression that they can hear you, they can read your thoughts all the time, they can like read your mind all the time. That's not how it works. Like even if you do have some sort of like um intuitive like tie to one another, you can't read each other's thoughts all the time, because that wouldn't be, it would take away from the experience. It's not about like hiding secrets or whatever. It's just that like it's an invasion of one's privacy to be able to know what they're thinking at all times. um like, cuz what if they were planning something for you, you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, but it's almost giving that you may have this idea, or you may be operating out of this mindset that like the person just should like know how you feel, or they must be doing something intentionally to get a rise out of you, or like, oh, if they actually cared about me, they would do this, or they would just like initiate this. But I'm getting that like this person isn't aware of anything being wrong, because again, they can't read your mind, even if you can read their mind a little bit. But sometimes it's sometimes the deceptive thoughts, especially if you are somebody that's highly intuitive, it is just a thing that at times is like, especially like if it is a divine connection where there can be some interference, especially you could pick up like negative projections of people wanting you to sabotage that connection, you know, or people like throwing doubt on you. And sometimes it can be kind of sinister. It's like you could be in a really healthy situation with somebody, and then your FYP or whatever, and like the content that starts coming up for you is all talking about like toxic relationship dynamics, and like, oh, I don't know, signs that things are about to fall apart, or oddly specific, like time sensitive stuff to like, oh, if you've been talking to this person for 3 months, it could be like, oh, if X, Y, D, and Z doesn't happen in this amount of time, then it's a failure, or like, stuff like that. And I don't really like believe in the whole concept of being like, oh, the like devil's trying to like trick you or whatever, because I think that like terms can be conflated. I would just like to say that and like a lot of spiritual beings that didn't need to be like villainized have been villainized, so it's like, like Pan or whatever. So I think it's like tricky to just say like, say that as like a blanket statement. But yes, there can be like low vibrational energies that attempt to sabotage connections that are meant to build things that will like, foster change in some significant positive way, even if it's not like you're doing great works together on the world stage or anything. It could even just be like the pure vibration of true unconditional love, of like a union coming together, can like, that like vibration heals, like grid work style, like it just heals the earth. It heals, anybody who encounters and like gets to witness that love, you know what I mean? So obviously there's always like low vibrational stuff that doesn't need to be named or anything, that can like seek to want to derail that by throwing like interference energy and fooling your intuition, okay? So like, try not to fall into a fear-based mindset, because if you're seeing this can just be confirmation that like everything is going well. uh it would go better if you would be a little bit more open about how you're feeling. I don't think you need to feel as if you need to carry the burden of all of your emotions on your own. Like somebody could in the past could have made you feel like whenever you open up to them you're being manipulative, um or like anytime you express your feelings it's trauma dumping or whatever. I think that people are like obsessed with like I don't know, you know what I mean, like trying to like diagnose everything, uh I think it's unrealistic to expect everyone to be perfect all the time. And if you're in a connection with somebody who seems to like, somebody who calls you perfect is different than like them expecting you to literally be perfect. It's giving that you could be in the vicinity of individuals who say that because they kind of like say that like you are perfect including your flaws, and they like see you for your core essence, like your soul is perfect, but that doesn't mean that you have to not feel negative emotion ever. It's just that like when you feel negative emotion, it's valid to have that. It's just that you need to try to work on expressing it in the healthiest way possible, in like the most balanced way possible, instead of just pretending you don't feel anything bad ever. You know what I mean? It's not ruining your image of being like someone's peace, or being like strong and resilient, or being like, I don't know, like bubbly and cheerful, or like a positive force of good or whatever. Because again, if you were meant to be flawless all the time, you wouldn't be in a human vessel. You would just be in your soul state, like floating around in the ethers. You know what I mean? Like we're literally occupying vessels for the sake of getting to experience all the extremes that we can only experience on this level of density or whatever. So again, I guess like the main point of this is like there is something like, I don't know, like something's about to overflow in regards to like an emotional expression. And if you can kind of like figure out a way to handle that in a more balanced way, instead of trying to like hide it, and trying to like be perfect, it would be better. It would be better, because I'm getting that like spirit or whatever like doesn't want you to suppress the energy. And also in regards to this connection, you're not meant to be hiding stuff from each other to that degree. You're supposed to be learning that like healthy relationships do allow for like healthy expression of concerns and like sometimes negative emotion. That's healthy. You're not supposed to hold everything in. And it's supposed to allow you to feel safe with that person. So if there is an outburst, nothing is going to be derailed unless you allow it to be. you know you can just like learn from the experience, and just try to do better next time. You don't have to like be hard on yourself if you do kind of like blow up on someone just actually try to do better.